So I bring you.
Oh no! Don't do it.
Oh.
So Chris Hayes, Chris fucking sellout $30,000 a day. Chris fucking Hayes.
You are right.
By the way, he's so obsessed with Susan Sarandon that he brought her back on to try to humiliate her and make her apologize for Donald Trump.
Not gonna happen.
And you know, Hillary supporters' obsession with Susan Sarandon really resonates with struggling families in swing states.
It also doesn't come across as sexist rage at all.
No. So let's. I'll agree with Chris Hayes. Susan Sarandon cost Hillary Clinton the White House. But who is to blame? Who is to blame for the Democrats' wipeout in the Congress, the Senate, and the state houses and the governorships? I'm gonna say it's Molly Ringwald. Or maybe that bitch Sally Field. What do you think, Dave?
I've lived here for years, so I know the power of a 7-year-old actress. I have seen election after election swayed by these women.
I blame Goldie Hawn. I don't know.
Right?
I just feel, I don't
It's
know.
time for it to stop. The actresses need to be quiet.
I think it was Susan Sarandon's fault. Well, so Christopher Hayes on Twitter, he brings Susan Sarandon back on. By the way, Susan Sarandon's Josh Fox. He did Gasland, and he's sitting right next to him.
Jeff Fox, right?
No, Josh. So Josh used to be a guest on Christopher Hayes on Twitter's show all the time, but as soon as he declared he was a Bernie delegate, they stopped inviting him on Christopher Hayes' show. Stopped. Cold. Wouldn't bring him on ever. He used to go on every couple of weeks. They stopped. You're a Bernie delegate? We don't do that shit here. We're MSNBC. We fired Ed Schultz for this shit, and we fired Phil Donahue for being right about the Iraq War. This is Comcast. Chris Hayes got his fucking mind right, and you better get it right too. So here...
Didn't Chris Hayes write a book, though, predicting this? Wasn't he one of the guys that wrote an Uprising book was coming?
Did he?
2 years ago? I feel like he was one of the guys that did. Like
Twilight?
Did he
Twilight of the Elites.
So he wrote that this was coming, and now he's acting like it didn't fucking happen.
That's how powerful 30 grand a day is. I can't wait to fucking have you all hate me because I took $30,000 a day. Where is the door that I have to knock on? Because I'm knocking, but no one's offering me $30,000 a day. A day? No wonder he's a douchebag. So all I'm just gonna say. So here he brings. So by the way, they wouldn't let Josh Fox on this show. And Susan Sarandon said, I'm not going on this show unless Josh Fox is sitting next to me. And she did that in the green room.
Really?
Yes. So they
Well, you know what? I wouldn't do this show unless Richard Martin was doing it.
God bless you. God bless you.
Really?
God bless you.
I would do it alone. I don't care.
Don't touch me.
Now he didn't bring Susan Sarandon. They brought on Josh Fox. They didn't list Josh Fox in the program. They don't list him in the video. They don't list him anywhere about it. Josh
He's
Fox
not in TV Guide.
He is persona non grata. So here is, he didn't bring her on to get to the bottom of some facts or to illuminate an issue. He brought Susan Sarandon on to get ratings so his corporatist cocksucking friends could watch him try to humiliate a 7-year-old actress activist. That's what this is about. This isn't about trying to illuminate anything or do journalism or find out what's going forward. This is about Chris Hayes trying to embarrass someone and humiliate someone. That's all this is about. And that's why Christopher Hayes is a millionaire cock sucker of the highest order. And you think I'm kidding, I'm gonna prove it to you. So he brings her on and this is what he does.
She's badass.
Take a listen. So the first thing he does, he goes, let me show you because they were supposed to come on and talk about Dapple. That's what they're supposed to talk about. And when they get there, Chris Hayes' producer, like, oh yeah, we're gonna show something from last time, and then we'll get into that stuff. And so it's all about this. This is exactly what these people do, okay? So he shows the video from last time, which apparently Chris Hayes didn't watch my video, which I know he does. I know he does. I can't tell you how I know. but I know he does. So here is, they throw to the video from the last time she was on, and here's what it is.
Isn't the question always in an election about choices, right? I mean, I think a lot of people think to themselves, well, if it's Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and I think Bernie Sanders probably would think
I think Bernie would probably encourage people because he doesn't have any ego in this thing. But I think a lot of people are sorry. I just can't bring myself to do that.
How about you personally?
I don't know. I'm going to see what happens.
Really?
Really.
I cannot believe that as you're watching the ride.
Well, you know,
Donald,
I cannot believe that I'm seeing a former union reporter from Chicago who takes $30,000 a day from Comcast, which is voted one of the worst companies for workers in the world, is sitting there standing up for the status quo. It just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. I don't know why would he do that. And he pretends like artists are the problem in America. Is there anything lower than a fucking corporate cocksucker with his own TV show pretending like fucking artists and activists are the problem in our fucking society when he's sitting there with a camera on Trump's empty podium?
I don't know.
Oh!
I don't know. I feel like maybe you haven't seen Vince Vaughn's last couple of movies.
Vince Vaughn, friend of the show.
feels Donald Trump will bring the revolution immediately. If he gets in, then things will really,
Oh, you're saying the Leninist model of fighting the contradictions?
Yeah. Some people feel that.
Don't you think that's dangerous?
I think that what's going on now, if you think that it's pragmatic to shore up the status quo right now, then you're not in touch with the status quo.
She nailed it.
Oh my God! He just showed her a clip of when she was right.
Yep.
Jesus fucking Christ!
That's how head up their ass they are. He doesn't even know that clip makes her look good. Anyway, so he plays that clip, and they come back to the studio, and here's what he says to her.
What do you think of that?
What do you think of that? I'll tell you what I think about it. I think you're still a fucking douchebag, Chris. I thought it then, I think it now, and for you to pretend that God damn it, you know what I think? I think you need fucking therapy if you think that Susan Sarandon is the goddamn problem in this country.
I really feel like we've been breached.
By the way, this is what Lee Feng says to Chris Hayes' question. Dems putting forward an absurdly corrupt status quo politician deeply hated by most of the country seems even more foolish in retrospect. That's what I would have said to Chris Hayes if I would have had that tweet handy. That's what she goes, what do you think of that? What the fuck do you think of it, Chris?
But they lose their mind when you make that point to them.
Yes, they do lose their mind.
They lose their fucking mind.
Like, he's mad at Susan Sarandon. He's not mad at Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who screwed over the progressive who could have crushed Trump, and we could have had a great country, or Donna Brazile, who cheated on TV. She had to fucking quit CNN. He's not mad at any of those people, or the donors, or the fact that we have super delegates, or none of that, or that the electoral he's not mad. He's mad at fucking Susan Sarandon.
Jimmy, you can yell at Debbie Wasserman Schultz, but have you ever tried to tell Benjamin Netanyahu no?
Okay, here
The saliva that comes your way. I built a Pope mobile just to break bad news to him.
Okay, here we go. I really think it's Susan Sarandon's fault. I really do. I mean, her one rhetorical comment back in March of last year versus the 46 times Chris Hayes showed Trump's empty podium for a fucking hour. I think that's it.
She's the most prominent woman to stand up to fucking Hillary. That's what this is.
Oh, is that what this is?
Yes, they are so enraged, particularly from someone of this age range. It makes them lose their fucking mind.
She's the most prominent woman. What about Mitt Romney?
But here's the beauty. By the time the Academy Awards roll around, they will have alienated the working class person again.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So here we go.
You know what? Really, that's where we want to spend our time and energy. I mean, you're a journalist. You consider yourself a journalist, right?
Yeah. Bam.
Nice work, right? You go, Susan. You go, Susan.
Oh my God!
What That's your profession?
Oh, wow. Look at him.
So,
I spend 15 hours a day covering what's going on.
so
Wow, 15 hours a day sounds like you need a better union.
I hope he gets
how many
15
hours did you
now.
spend on Standing Rock and all these amazing
Not very much.
things? So,
Oh, you do shit.
And he's
You're
smug
kidding.
about it.
Not very much. You know that thing that my corporate bosses don't want me to talk about? I'm not talking about it. Hey, what's your problem, Susan? What's your problem with me not covering that thing that reveals me to be a fucking sellout? What's your problem?
The guy sitting next to her made a documentary about how to psychologically accept the end of the world from environmental destruction. That's who's sitting next to her.
So when that movie aired, when it premiered, not only did it not bring Josh Fox on this time to talk about it or to promote it, but MSNBC ran their own counter environmental special, which they didn't talk about fracking or dirty oil or pipelines or any of that shit. Isn't that amazing? So they take this guy off the air, they replace him with their own environmental special at the same night his thing's airing, and then Chris Hayes comes on and acts like a smug corporate prick. Isn't that awesome? That's what we're left with. So I couldn't watch this video. People kept sending me this video.
Yeah.
Jimmy, I wish you would do this video on your show. Do this video on your show. And it wasn't until midnight last night that I actually had the emotional bandwidth to watch it, because I knew it was going to piss me off and bum me out. I don't want to hate Chris Hayes. I want him to be a hero. He knows better, but he's not doing better. And he's doing it because he's getting a lot of money, and there's no other fucking reason on earth except that. And I couldn't watch it, and at midnight last night, Steph said, you gotta watch it. I sat down, I turned it on, and I had a knot in my stomach within 4 fucking minutes. I had a knot in my stomach, right? And so here we go. That's what this is, and let's watch the rest of it.
what we need from you is to allow people to understand what's happening and to also allow them to understand a very...
Right, but part of that's, Josh, this question of the status quo.
So wait a minute. She just outed him for not covering DAPL and said, this is what we need you to do. And he said, yeah, well, Josh. So I don't know if you already noticed, he didn't acknowledge what she said and moved right the fuck on to something else. He's going to do that a couple more times in this interview.
She was making a hell of a point.
Yeah, she's making a great point. You're not doing your goddamn job, Chris. This is important, and you're not covering it, and he's smart. No, he didn't.
Yeah, and the voice in his ear is going, jump to Josh Fox. Go to Josh Fox.
Yeah,
now.
go to
That's
Fox.
the kind of shit that the establishment can't handle because it tears everything they are apart, and then they're fucking naked, sitting there like idiots.
And this happens a couple more times. Susan Sarandon, let's watch. So here, I messed up. We have to start this clip again. Here we go.
That's where we want to spend our time and energy. I mean, you're a journalist. You consider yourself a journalist, right?
Yeah.
Bam.
So
I spend 15 hours a day covering what's going on.
So how many hours did you spend on Standing Rock and all these amazing
Not very much.
things? So what we need from you is to allow people to understand what's happening and to also allow them to understand a very...
Right, but part of that's, Josh, this question of the status quo.
I don't want to answer the question.
It's like, Josh, a woman's talking. Can you help me?
What he's doing right here is called manufacturing consent. That is what he's doing. He is making sure every liberal in the country thinks that Susan Sarandon is the problem and not the fucking system that we need to upend and fix. That's the problem, this stupid corporate money system that, by the way, he's taking part in. He's a guy sitting at this capitalist gangbang taking part. He goes on, ready?
The environment, right? Let's talk about the pipeline, right? The status quo prior to the election was totally untenable because it was heading us towards a disaster. All of us at this table agree with that, right? But
so what he's saying is that what was happening with the pipelines and the stuff in the country before the election was untenable and a disaster, and we all agreed. And I think Josh was going to say, I don't think you fucking agreed, Chris, because you were doing shit about it or talking about it. You stopped having me on your show. So we didn't all agree about that, Chris. I think that's what Josh is going to try to say, but he gets cut off. Here we go.
it was also the case that it could get much, much worse.
All right? You saw Josh talking. I don't think you fucking.
For instance, the head of Exxon could be the next Secretary of State.
So first of all, he says, well, here we go.
environment, right? Let's talk about the pipeline, right? The status quo prior to the election was totally untenable because it was heading us towards disaster. All of us at this table agree with that, right? But it was also the case that it could get much, much worse. For instance, the head of Exxon could be the next Secretary of State.
So he just said, it could get much, much worse. For instance, the head of Exxon could be the next Secretary of State. Oh, I got ya.
That's really bad. That's worse. That's a badder thing.
That's a
So
worse. Come on, you gotta come on. I got ya. Oh, Chris. So what you're saying is now the oil companies have influence on our foreign policy? Well, push me over with a fucking feller.
Well, that's the weird thing, because our government has been fighting against oil for so long that now they have a guy in there that's for oil, and it's going to make everything topsy-turvy.
What a stupid thing. People say this left and right. Oh, Tillerson's, what do you think now? I think it's a lot easier to oppose a cocksucker who comes right from Exxon instead of a guy who has lunch with the guy from Exxon. We have to put together the fucking pieces of the puzzle. Now I just gotta go, oh, it's that fucking asshole right there. It's the guy from Exxon. It's the Exxon guy. He's doing shit for Exxon. That's the Exxon guy. It's that he didn't have lunch with nobody. It's the fuck. That's the guy. So when Christopher Hayes says that stupid sophomoric shit, which is what it is, and it's beneath him, and he's doing it for fucking money, when he does that, think of me going,
Jimmy,
that's only my fifth one. I'm sorry, Richard?
In hindsight, appointing Rex was a little bold. We thought you folks were still asleep.
We got to get to this because we got to end the show. Hang on.
You're the one that keeps more, Chris, on that point. But what the point is this, is that...
So the point is, now we're going to end this show in 5 minutes. So don't everybody freak out. I know we're going to end. We have to end. We're 2 hours already. So Josh Fox starts to lay out what's wrong with the country and what was wrong with the election and why we have Donald Trump. Now, Chris Hayes can't have that happen on MSNBC because it's owned by Comcast and he's got some fucking people to please. So he'll do anything except talk about what Josh is talking about. Watch, and he'll stop him and he'll talk. So we're going to do it. Here we go.
Two pieces to this, right? There's what's totally unacceptable to people, and then there's what creates enthusiasm in an election.
Sure.
And when I was on the platform committee, I was there with Bill McKibben, talking with Bernie Sanders, talking with the Clinton campaign, trying to negotiate for the Democrats to have a ban on fracking in their platform, which was a position that would have created an enormous amount of enthusiasm in states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina. You see where I'm going with this?
Yep. That's how Chris says, yep. That's what Chris says, yep.
I know, but Exxon.
Yep.
And the Clinton campaign consistently decided, no, we're going to side with the oil industry on these questions. And they employed fracking lobbyists as their energy people. People could see this. She did a $650,000 fundraiser with the leading fracking company in America the day after the platform hearings when we had actually come to some compromises.
And Chris Hayes would say, and you just got to fucking take it. Just take it. So what? She had a meeting took 600. Who gives a shit? Take it and vote for her and be a good American. Good night. That's what Chris Hayes is saying to him right now. Watch what he does say.
What was happening, Chris, was not only are we going to side over and over again with the establishment that the Democrats created and with the situation, because I said in those hearings, mark my words, people are not going to vote to frack themselves.
But they did vote to frack themselves because they elected the guy who was going to frack the entire country. So the idea, Chris, how stupid is Chris Hayes being right now? What he's pretending is that we're not fracking the entire country right fucking now. We are fracking. Jerry Brown's for fracking. We're fracking the fuck out of this country. We're fracked.
Who's fracking?
And so he's there pretending that people they did vote to frack. They just voted for Donald Trump. And guess who? If they didn't vote for Donald Trump, who were they supposed to vote for? Hillary Clinton, who's also pro fucking fracking, you stupid cocksucker. But if they voted for fucking Jill Stein, you would go,
The last part didn't have words.
So Chris Hayes is overlooking the very crucial point that no matter who they voted for in the two-party duopoly, they were going to vote for a pro-fracker. And so he's pretending that Josh just made a misstatement, which he didn't, and he's trying to hijack the point. I don't know if you remember what the point was. The point was, what was wrong? Why did Hillary Clinton lose? People aren't going to vote to frack themselves, meaning people aren't going to vote for someone who offers them nothing. Donald Trump was offering them something. It was just rhetoric, but he offered it to them, and they took it, and that's why you lost, you stupid motherfucker, and you keep pretending that a guy who makes movies about fracking is the fucking problem. It's not the problem. You putting a camera on Donald Trump's empty podium instead of covering Bernie fucking Sanders' speech at Super Tuesday, that's the fucking problem, Chris.
So
You're the problem, Chris, not Josh Fox, and not Susan Sarandon, and not a jagoff YouTuber. You're the fucking problem, Mr. $6,000 suit, and I'm not gonna lay off your ass. All right, we gotta go.
I'll tell you next
Please
time.
help me out. Let me thank my panel: Steph Zamorano, Paul Gilmartin, Laura Kightlinger, Dave Anthony from the Dollop. Thank you for coming out. We'll see you March 4th and back here on March 20th. Thanks for coming out. Good night, everybody.
Hey, the next live Jimmy Dore show is March 4th. That's a Saturday. Get your tickets right below. The next one after that is March 20th. The shows sell out really fast, so get your tickets right now. Links right there.